I think confidence can be very real in every stage of our life. And it's not like we get to a certain point and we can no longer display ourselves in a confident manner.
Welcome to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast, a show that celebrates women over the age of 40 who want to live a kick-ass life. I'm your host, Liz Applegate, and I'll be bringing you inspiring conversations and practical advice with a little bit of humor and random 80s references mixed in. Join me as we redefine these middle years to start living with newfound joy and purpose while turning our maybe someday dreams into today. Hey, listeners, welcome to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I am so glad you have joined me today. And I'm going to start out with a question for you. How confident do you feel? How confident do you feel in your career, your home life, in your own abilities? What you may find is that some areas of your life you feel super confident, while others, not so much. And you may find, too, that as you're getting older and going through life's transitions, your self-confidence in some areas is blooming, and in others, it seems to be shrinking. And that's the interesting thing about confidence. It changes from day to day, opportunity to opportunity, but it is an also important skill to practice. Or what happens if you don't is you can find your world getting smaller and smaller. And that's the danger of confidence. We kind of get into these routines. So I should back that up. I guess there could be some dangers in confidence. But what I meant to say was that's the danger of not practicing confidence. Is that we can get into our day-to-day routines. We get into this autopilot mode. And we almost seem to be sitting back and waiting for confidence to show up, right? Like we'll think, okay, as soon as I'm confident, I will do this thing I've always wanted to do. I will ask for the raise. I will cut my hair off. I will book that trip to Paris. Whatever it is, we are waiting for this, this lightning bolt moment or like a fairy wand that all of a sudden, we will just have the confidence that we need. But here's the thing. As we are waiting around for that confidence to show up, a lot of times we're just waiting. We're not doing anything, and we're not taking the first step. And what happens then is that, honestly, nothing will happen. So I have a very special podcast episode today with two of my very special friends and coaches, Paula Jenkins and Julie Houghton. We have gone through coach certification training together. We actually were mentor coaches together for the Courageous Living Coach certification. And we are in a mastermind together. And that we noticed in our own lives, as well as in working with our clients, that the lack of self-confidence is something that constantly comes up during times of transition. And so the three of us, we just really became fascinated by it. And one discussion led to another. And now we have not only this podcast episode, but another podcast episode that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And we also have an online workshop that we have planned for this Friday, April 20th. At 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it's called Reclaiming Confidence, and I would really love for you to join us. Now, this is a free webinar. We aren't trying to sell you anything. We were so excited about diving into this subject, and we actually gave this webinar to a professional group. And then we realized how important the subject matter was, and so we wanted to open it up to our audiences. Head on over there, sign up. You've got nothing to lose. If you can't make that time, there will be a recording sent out, and we would just love to have you join us. Something else that is super special about this episode is it's actually part 2 of the conversation, and we started the conversation yesterday over on the Jumpstart Your Joy podcast with Paula on her episode 132. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to go check out that episode and then head back over here. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. So let's just head on over there and start this amazing conversation. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with two of my mastermind buddies, my coaching buddies. These two women have just been by my side since, 2015, when we went through coaching certification together. So I'm here with Paula and Julie. And what I realized right before we started, and I shared this with them, is like, I have never had them on the show, and I can't believe it. So I'm going to take a minute and let them introduce themselves. And then we're going to dive into this topic that we are really in love with, and we're going to talk and speak into confidence. So welcome, you guys. I'm so glad you're here.
Yay!
Thanks, Liz.
Yay!
So excited to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter which one. Somebody jump in, tell us who you are, what you do, who you be.
Well, I'll go. I'm Paula Jenkins. I'm a life coach, retreat leader, project manager by day, and I help women find their voice and help them start a podcast. And you can find me over at jumpstartyourjoy.com. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay!
And I'm Julie Houghton. I'm Julie Houghton. I live in San Francisco. I'm a life and career coach. I work with women, lots of moms, helping them find clarity around what kind of work would feel most in alignment with who they are, and helping them with all the feelings that come up around that. So helping them not only figure out what they want to do, but find the confidence to do it.
Yeah. Yay. Yeah. And so much confidence is needed, right? When we talk about what we each do, what we each help our clients with. And when we were talking, we meet and we talk, and we've held webinars before and workshops, and we just really realized how confidence is just something that we see as we're trying to help our clients move from one place to the next. And this is an area that we really wanted to dive into and talk about. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a teaser to be sure to go over to Jumpstart Your Joy. And yesterday's episode was the start of this conversation. And you'll be able to find the links in the show notes to go over there and listen to that conversation. And then we're continuing it over here at Midlife Schmidlife. So I'm super excited to just jump right in. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about confidence, what comes up for you guys?
Well, I think it's
okay. We have a lot to say.
Yeah, we do. We love this topic so much.
We do.
Well, I think for me, the thing that a lot about vulnerability comes up huge, because I think the places where confidence, where we feel like, oh my gosh, I lack confidence, or it's so hard, it's the places where we really want to shine, and where we really want to be big and be our most authentic selves. And I think it takes a lot of vulnerability to walk into that space and say, here's who I am. Here's what I bring to the party. Here's what my message is for you and the world. And, I'm just going to sing loudly, which is something we talked about on my show. And I think the vulnerability part, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think it's, when we started talking about confidence, the three of us, and realizing what a huge topic it is, and on yesterday on Paula's show as well, just recognizing how pervasive this is in our lives. I mean, confidence comes up in big ways and small ways, at home, at work, as a mom, in all your relationships. It's such an important topic, and it touches on so many things. And something that just occurred to me too is I think it's interesting to look at, this is all just formulating in my brain as I speak. But I'm curious about confidence as kind of like a signpost. Like when we're not feeling confident, we feel scared, basically. And I think it's interesting to look at, what is that even telling us about what's important to us in our lives? You know, that thing that we're not feeling confident about. I think it could come up in different ways. I think you could feel a lack of confidence and maybe like a sense of dread, and there could be something juicy to explore there, like what's going on with that sense of dread. But there can also be something like related to, you know, not feeling confident, but that is a signpost that this thing is so important to you. So yeah, like I said, it's not a fully formed thought, but I guess to answer your question, Liz, what comes to me is just how important this topic is in big ways and small ways in pretty much every part of our lives. And I'm kind of curious about that, you know, that what information does it even tell us when we're not feeling confident? What does that tell us about ourselves and about that thing that we're not feeling confident about?
Yeah, we touch on, you know, bits and pieces of that over on Paula's show, and we talk about, think about confidence as something that we need for like these big events, you know, like asking for a raise or public speaking, but there are so many day-to-day places where we want to feel the confidence to maybe make positive changes, and yet we don't. And we don't feel the confidence, so we don't make the steps to start to make that positive change. And that is interesting, Julie, you know, like that whole, like, what does that say about us? What does it say about, you know, where we are and how we're feeling about ourselves to not make those changes?
Right. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at what does our lack of confidence tell us about what we want more of in our life, what we want less of, because it can come up around both. Confidence to ask for what you want, confidence to speak up about something that's not working for you. There's a lot of information there about what we want more of, what we want less of, what matters to us.
Yeah, it's also striking me. This is going to perhaps sound like it comes out of nowhere, but it also takes a lot of confidence to say we don't feel confident, or to even say, I wish I could talk about confidence. Because like and I think that's striking me as we were talking about social media and stuff. And like a lot of people seem so confident and so self-assured. And so for some other people, the starting point might even just be to say, I feel like I'm scared to even admit I don't feel confident at all in anything. I mean, that might be a starting point, and that's scary, but so courageous. Like there's confidence in doing it. Like,
right. And being honest.
Yeah, and Paula, it goes back to that vulnerability that you were talking about. You know, it is vulnerable to say that you don't have this confidence that you're seeing everyone else around you, you know, supposedly have. I'm using air quotes right now, because just because you see this great picture of someone sitting on a beach with a, you know, umbrella drink in their hand and their life looks perfect does not necessarily mean that they are just oozing the confidence. It just means that they're putting that mask, and that's what they're showing the world. But it does go back to that vulnerability of just being real and just saying, I'm not feeling confident right now in my life, and wanting to take the steps forward on how to change that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think it's kind of it's like a vicious cycle if you are not feeling confident, but it's an interesting distinction, because we talked in Paula's show about acting even if you don't feel confident, and recognizing that it's a myth that you're going to have this magical moment when the confidence appears and then you can act. But there's a sticky situation where you don't feel confident and you're not being truly honest about that, and that can feel so trapped, you know, like the imposter syndrome. That it's a very closed, you know, isolating experience to feel like it's a secret that you're not feeling confident, but you're supposed to.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many shoulds, and it's hard to untangle them as if you're in that space of feeling like, oh my gosh, there's all this that I should be doing, and why am I not like all those other people? So yeah, I mean, I think the starting point then is is really courageous and beautiful to step into that space to say, okay, I'm going to just start chipping away at this where I can and how I can, and maybe dropping. I don't know. I like, Julie, what you said about kind of mindfully and intentionally getting in touch with then your inner wisdom. I mean, I'm using a different word, but your inner wisdom of knowing, okay, I don't feel confident. So what does that mean? Or I wish I could feel confident here and I don't know why I don't. And what does that mean? Like, I feel like there's a whole journaling exercise, a good practice of like even writing it out and just saying like, I don't feel confident and I think this is why, or I wish I felt more confident and this is why, what I think that would look like. I love this topic.
I know. So Paula, you brought up the shoulds. We're going to unpack that a little bit. Like the shoulds are these things that we tell ourselves that we should do, right? Like, so we, I'm just, what are some shoulds that we feel like we should do? Like even though I work a 40-hour week, I should have dinner on the table for my family. So those are what we talk about when we say shoulds. And what's interesting to me, and we touched on this just a little bit on Paula's episode yesterday, but the good girl rules and how that really can play into these shoulds. And these are the rules that we learned when we were younger, when we were growing up, and these are things that we were told, and probably lovingly. I don't want to say that these were things that were shared to kind of squash our personalities or keep us small, but they are definitely things that we have adopted for ourselves, and they can become the shoulds, and they can become the stories that we tell ourselves. I'm curious what you guys think, how those can play into our confidence.
It's interesting. I mean, I work with women around career, so I really see that coming up in career big time, and there's a lot of research out there as well. And I know you guys are familiar with it. There's that really interesting article called The Confidence Gap that was published in Atlantic Monthly a few years ago that talks about the way girls are treated, what girls are rewarded for in school, and how that does not serve you in the work world. We are rewarded for avoiding risks, for avoiding failure, for not causing too much trouble, don't disrupt class, for being as prepared as possible. So don't speak up unless you're totally prepared and you've done all your research and all your homework. So I think those really become good girl rules of, be quote unquote good. And that works out well when you're in school. And then when you're in the workplace, and there's a lot of research of the ways in which women get this message way more than men, that men are rewarded, and boys are rewarded more for taking risks, and there's more expectation that they're going to be disruptive, and lots of sort of gender stereotypes that come into play. But yeah, I see those good girl rules for sure coming through in the workplace, where women are, not those. I think those rules are often unexamined, like you were saying, and kind of acting from a place of playing it safer, or the article talks about even, applying for a job. I think it's like women apply for a job when they meet 40% of the qualifications, and when they meet 100%, and men when they meet 40%. So I see it for sure showing up there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the example I shared was kind of one of the good girl rules being something around like don't be too much. I think Lewis Carroll calls it like your muchiness or something, like in the Through the Looking Glass series of, and that's celebrated. But I think that one of the good girl rules is like don't avoid the muchiness. I'm just gonna say that because one of the ones that comes out loud for me as a specific example was that I was too loud. And even one time I shared was that I was a really loud singer in church, but it was too much. It was like, which is so interesting that then really one of the things that I love to work with people around is finding your voice, right? Because that good girl rule shuts us down, like shuts down the volume, literally the volume, but also figuratively, like how much we share, how much is appropriate to share. And so we start to confine ourselves into these boxes around what they, in air quotes, think we should be and what we should do and the rules that seem to be in place, even though we couldn't really say, like, it didn't come from anywhere. And now we've just kind of assembled our own good girl rules that are really, in essence, holding us back. And so I think that's exactly why it's so hard for some people to start a podcast, is somewhere along the way, or share their message, because that's the other angle of that, but like share their message with the world, because the muchiness rule is being broken. You are too much and you're sharing too much. That's another big one that my family used to say is, oh, you share just anything with anyone. Okay, so there's a gift in that.
I learned to start a podcast.
I'm a connector. But that could keep you quiet and keep you playing small and keep you in the little good girl box in a big way and feel so intimidating to venture even a toe outside that, because you've been told those things a long time.
What's really interesting about these good girl rules is that you can't win. Like, there are so many rules that often contradict each other, because as a kid I was told I was too quiet. and so I feel like the message is like your authentic style, your way of being is not okay. So it's like, where is it? You don't be too loud, don't be too quiet. I feel like in the workplace, there's that tension for women in particular around being seen as confident versus likable. So if you're too likable, you must not be that smart and competent. If you're really competent, you're not seen as warm and likable. You get so boxed in with these rules that you can't, how do you even exist? There's no, there's no space.
And then no wonder that when you're at a place where you are needing to have this confidence, and like you've been told your whole life that you're not acceptable as how you are. And it's just kind of no wonder. To me, it's just kind of like, it's no wonder that, I have a hard time sharing my message, or that is that place of the moment where I need that confidence. I'm trying to think of like where the next place we can go with this. And I think what comes up for me really is, and it kind of piggybacks on the good girl rules. It's so with midlife, schmidlife, we're over the age of 40 and we are really looking at our life and wondering, we're ready to kind of live this kick-ass life, but we're like, I'm getting stuck in all these places, and I have kids I have to take care of, and I have all these responsibilities, and just this cycle of that, and just the habit of how our life can become kind of on this autoplay cycle. And I'm wondering, what speaks to you when I mention that, if anything comes up at all?
What comes up for me is, I guess, making space within that being in that autopilot place to really identify what you want. And I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, I guess today too, but the wisdom within your lack of confidence, that the first step is figuring out what you want, and the wisdom in looking at what feels scary to you, that when you're in this place of kind of living on autopilot, what are those little things in the back of your head that pop up, and then you tell yourself, oh, I can't do that. The lack of confidence comes in. But what are those little nuggets of wisdom around, okay, this is something that means something to me. I'm feeling scared because it's close to my heart. And I think that's sort of the first step of getting out of that place of being an autopilot is reconnecting with yourself and asking yourself, what do I really want? And then there's the confidence piece, finding the confidence to do it. But I feel like there's a lot of wisdom in looking at what feels scariest to you, and what does that tell you about what that thing means to you, what you truly want more of in your life.
Yeah. I think the thing, it's funny, the answer that struck me is more around like what the autopilot seems to keep going, even though we hit transition periods in our lives. And what I mean specifically, I think the one that comes up for me is the transition from when I came into becoming a mother. Like, I had a lot of assumptions and a lot of autopilot things that worked well for, a person that didn't have a child. And while I can kind of giggle about it, and it seems obvious looking back that a check-in with oneself as a child is probably, a couple months after they're born to see, okay, what things do I need to revisit? Because not everything I'm going to have on autopilot is working, like even simple things at that point, like it's not really a reality that I can just go to I can't just stop by Target any day anymore to pick up things as I need them. I need to plan ahead a little bit, or it would be easier if I planned ahead. And so I think revisiting the assumptions, both emotionally and like spiritually, and even the really pragmatic things in a week, I think that's something that's huge, and it takes confidence, one, to say, okay, I just went through a transition. I know myself. It's self-confidence. I know myself well enough to see that some of these old patterns and habits I've got they don't feel right anymore. And so that's really similar to what you're saying, Julie. I think it's making the space for the check-in. And maybe that's once a year that you do it, or you just say, my kids went to college and now this feels way different, or now I'm 40 and this all feels way different.
Right.
Or I've hit perimenopause and this all feels way different. I think there's those things, and it's easy to think that habits and our patterns and all that will serve us as we continue. But I think the changes don't always get taken into or factored in, and there's some of our own wisdom we need to honor in making time for that, and take, and there's some confidence pieces there that, like, in evaluating how things feel and what they look like. And all that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think just really having the confidence to trust that you are at this, even though you're at this transition, you are bringing all of yourself with you, and this isn't like you're going to be leaving. Some of it is like morphing and changing, and in that you are too, but just trusting that you know yourself enough. And I wonder how much of that we just really ignore, right? We just kind of go through our days and we just kind of ignore how we're feeling, and we're just ignoring that, these things aren't working anymore, but we're just going to keep at them. And that confidence piece to really trust that we do know what we want to do next. And maybe we don't know it all. Maybe we don't know all the steps, but just the fact that we can really look within and take that time. And I think that can be kind of scary, I mean, it's one thing to be vulnerable with other people, but this is almost like a vulnerability with ourselves.
Yeah. It makes me think of the confidence muscle that you were talking about yesterday, Liz. And I think it does take a lot of confidence to trust that you know what you want, even if you're not aware of what that is. I feel like you can be in a place sometimes where you feel so unclear about things, and that can feel really scary. And having the confidence to trust that that the answer is in there, that it's inside you and you're going to find it, and the confidence to take small steps. There's an exercise that I will give to clients sometimes who are in this process of reconnecting with themselves and what they really want. I feel like starting small can be so powerful, and I'll ask them to just notice, like for 2 weeks, keep a notebook or something near you and just jot down throughout your day, what are you doing and how does it make you feel? And you're looking for signs of, like, what are the things that really resonate with you, that energize you, and what are the things that feel dissonant or that drain you? And it can be these tiny things of, like, having to do the laundry drains me, or going to the grocery store energizes me. It can be these tiny things that seem to have nothing to do with this larger question of what do you really want in your life. But it's a process of reconnecting with yourself in these small ways and tuning in to what resonates and what feels dissonant. And having the confidence that if you're not feeling like you know what you want, that answer is in there, and you can take these small steps to figure it out.
It strikes me too that there's something too about taking stock in what your body is saying. So if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. I mean, that's often a feeling, at least for me, is in my body. And this, of course, somatics, if you're following along with coachy terms, but like also something that I never would have admitted was a thing. So if you're shaking your head, this is real. But like trusting that actually your body, I think I was listening to the Lively show and she was talking about like your heart knows things before because your entire body is taking in information for you. And it often, your body knows things before your head does. So if you can rest in confidence with that your body is telling you things and that you need to tune in and pay attention. And so kind of, Julie, what you're saying, like if you get that pit of your stomach feeling of dread when you're doing, like thinking about having to go to the laundromat or something, get curious. Like there's something in there and give yourself permission that your body is giving you information that is important. And then have the confidence that there is truth in what your body's teaching you or telling you. And like, how do you learn from that? Like, how do you then, with your head, very academically perhaps, go through the data and say, oh, here's what my body's telling me? Because I think there's wisdom in that and the confidence to be learned and even like what leaned into about what our bodies are telling us, especially because a lot of the transition phases we were just talking about, there's a physicality to it, right? Like having a baby is a transition point that obviously involves your entire body, and like menopause, another body.
Oh yeah,
like I think there's something interesting about that connection. Again, not a fully baked idea right here, but something interesting. Our body is telling us, getting us to pay attention, and so maybe we also, it's a time to feel, okay, where am I confident? What feels weird here?
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like this can start so small too, of like, I've had experiences where I've shared that same idea with clients of that sort of checking in with your body and its wisdom. And sometimes we're in a place where we're like, you know what? I actually go through the day and I don't even pay attention to when I'm hungry or I have to pee and I wait an hour because I tell myself I'm too busy and I can't interrupt my work. It can be at these really simple, basic levels of checking in with what your body's telling you.
Right.
And I think those small steps are like the building blocks of these bigger check-ins around like, what is my body telling me that I really want more of in my life, of what's my passion, what's close to me, what do I want for this new phase of my life.
Ooh, this whole like the somatic talk, I'm just like my brain is just going. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to picture is actually what came to my mind was like this picture of how I would even carry myself physically when I'm more confident and when and how I would look physically when I'm not, and just the shift of our body and opening up, and then how much of that we do, we just kind of ignore. We ignore that from a day-to-day place of what our body's trying to tell us, but then also how we present ourselves in a confident or non-confident way.
Yeah. Ooh, this is juicy territory.
Of those,
I know.
Have you guys heard of the power poses?
Yes.
It totally makes me think about it. Yeah. And I feel like it really fits with this whole idea that we've been talking about in both these conversations about confidence, of acting even if you don't have all the confidence you want yet, but kind of doing it anyway. And I feel like that the power poses makes me think of that from a somatic perspective of like, what can you do with your body that actually brings you more confidence? That.
So I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting here right now in a power pose. When we were talking, I did that whole Wonder Woman power pose. It's like,
love it,
owning it.
And that makes me think back to the work thing too. Of I remember reading some research about the way, like where women sit in the conference room versus men. Like women tend to sit on the edge, men sit front and center. I totally remember one of my first jobs working in consulting. Not to get stereotypical here, but this is my experience. These guys would come into the room, they'd throw their feet up on the table, lean back in the chair, and kind of put their arms behind their head with like their elbows out, almost like when you're going to do a sit up. And I just be like, really? Like, you really need to take up this much physical space? And like, didn't anyone teach you, like, don't put your feet on the table? But it was interesting because it's like a physical show of confidence, which
Right.
that in this case, to me, I found it was sort of comical. Because it was more than one guy who would do this. I was like, where are you guys getting this stuff? But it is interesting, just these small things about your body and not only what that conveys to other people, but I think even more importantly, how it makes you feel. How do you feel when you're holding your body that way?
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking even a recent conversation on my own show was with a fashion coach, or like a she helps people pick out clothes that make them feel confident. And it's just interesting. Like, one of the things that she even was talking about was like finding someone who has like a similar look to you, and then like but like body style and body shape and all that. Like, I feel like this goes into this really interesting territory of like we can very knowingly pick out people that we see with an outward appearance that have this confidence, in an authentic way. And I'm just trying to look it up, but there's an older woman with the big glasses and who's a model, and we all
I love her.
and like she's so confident, and
Totally.
and like I think we can each think of people at different stages in their lives, and I feel like this goes back to somatics and back to those things too, of like there's an outward appearance of confidence, and we resonate with them, and we can see it in them, and we are energized by them. And there's just, again, not totally a fully baked idea, but I feel like there is something about like, who do we identify with? I kind of bring up someone who is in an elder, in her elder years, because I think confidence can be very real in every stage of our life. And it's not like we get to a certain point and we can no longer display ourselves in a confident manner. I'm also thinking of people that, I see walking around my own office place with, kind of shoulders shrugged down, and, they've chosen an outfit that isn't drawing attention to them in any way. And they are clearly trying to get through the hallways and between the cubicles without getting noticed. And, one of the things that Rain, that's the person that was on my show, was talking about was like, how can you infuse a little bit of excitement into each wardrobe that says, look at me, that like shows that you're someone that's fun to engage with, if that's who you are authentically. But like, I think just thinking of those things that like energize you and bring you out and show your confidence is also an interesting outward representation at every stage, totally doable. But like, I don't know, there's just something really fun there that like, how can you do that each day if that's something you feel is missing and you're feeling drawn to being more confident at work?
Right.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
And what comes up for me around that thought is how, as women and as we are getting older, my body has changed a lot over the last 10 years, having gone through menopause or perimenopause and now in menopause or experienced menopause. And there is actually this phenomenon as women are getting older, and it's called the invisible woman phenomenon, where women actually they become invisible to society, but they also become invisible to themselves, and they start doing those kinds of things where they start dressing more plain. They stop taking chances in their wardrobe. They are looked, like they could be wanting help in a department store or something, and people just walk right by you and don't notice that you're trying to flag them down. So it's this real kind of sad place in society as a woman ages. But also, I think the sadder part is that we kind of allow that to happen, right? And this is where our confidence can really start to really kind of, wane as we're getting older. And I actually love, Paula, that you pointed out, a woman who is very confident in her dress. I'm trying to think of what her name is. Iris.
It's Iris.
I know.
Iris, yes.
Yeah, she's 90.
Yeah. Yes. It's like we all should be like that. Or there's a internet star. Her name is Batty Winkle. I think that's what her name is. Yes. Oh my gosh. And so what lessons we can learn from these women and kind of look to them as being our role models, I feel.
Yeah, and taking their nod of like maybe the big glasses or the like, I don't know, doesn't Baddiewinkle wear like a lot of spandex? I mean, like maybe those specific things like are not your thing, but like
Right.
being authentically you. And if you feel like you've shrunk back from who that person was, and if the good girl rules are like kind of keeping you in a place that doesn't really feel authentic, then put on the big glasses, put on the spandex, make a crazy
Right.
Instagram account, like play big.
Hey, this day and age, you can do all of that. Well, you two, I am so thankful that we got to jump on the call, and I really thank you guys for taking the time. And as we dive into talking about confidence, and be sure as well to head over to Jumpstart Your Joy and check out yesterday's show, where we actually start this conversation about confidence, and you will see how they fit together rather nicely, and we kind of bounced ideas off of one show to the next, and this has been a great fun thing to do, Paula, so thanks for the idea to do this. So any last words you want to say about confidence?
Yeah, I would say it's just such a rich topic. I know we all felt like once we started, like we've been saying in these conversations, it's such a meaty topic that just shows up in all areas of your life, big and small. And It's been so fun doing this with you guys.
Thanks, Julie.
Totally agree. And I hope you guys will check it out and come join us. Like, I love that this topic ranged from me singing loudly and in a church, and then we bring up Baddiewinkle.
Right.
And it's funny how like it goes so deep in our lives, and the things that come up. It's really beautiful to be able to talk about them in a real way and share it with you guys. So, yay!
Yeah, yay! Well, thank you so much, Julie and Paula. And
thank you for having us.
We got to get back on the show and do another discussion, because this was a lot of fun.
That would be so fun.
Anytime.
All right.